Beautiful, beautiful. Good morning. What's going on, people? Today is December 1st, brand new month, the first of the month. Wake up, wake up, wake up. First of the month. What's going on, people? December 1st, 2025. Time is 9:03 a.m. Eastern Time. You're on with another segment I like to call Monday Morning Quarterback. Get down with Big Ron Brown, Big Kush, King Kush is all the same. These will be brought to you live. Be posted on The Bridge 45 on YouTube. Just giving them a recap of college football, rivalry weekend, big weekend in college football. NFL scores, guys that went hard in the paint in the NBA, and a big coaching announcement that was made yesterday by Lane Kifflin, deciding that we all knew what was about to happen, the inevitable. So, anyway, let's get into some scores from college football real quick. Rivalry weekend, as I said, Egg Bowl. Ole Miss take down Mississippi State 38 to 19. Indiana had no problem with taking down Purdue 56 to 3. Texas takes down Texas A&M. I guess Texas said we still the big brother on the block. They defeated Texas A&M 27 to 17. In a tight game in the Battle of Georgia and the Peach State, Georgia takes down Georgia Tech 16 to 9. Utah takes down Kansas 31 to 21. Arizona defeats Arizona State 23 to 7. Ohio State, for the first time since 2019, I didn't realize it had been that long since Ohio State had beat Michigan. They beat Michigan in the Big House 27 to 9, pretty much solidifying their spot in the Big Ten championship game, and also probably going to be the number 1 seed going into the college football playoff. Texas Tech goes into Charleston, West Virginia, and has no problem with the Mountaineers defeating them by a score of 49 to 0. Man, that was ugly. Clemson defeats South Carolina 28 to 14. BYU defeats Central Florida 41 to 21. Oregon defeats Washington 26 to 14. Oklahoma, in a tight SEC battle, defeats LSU 17 to 13. Vanderbilt, first time they had a 10-win season in their program. They go into Knoxville and knock all the Volunteers 45 to 24. Florida defeats Florida State by a score of 40 to 21. Virginia defeats Virginia Tech 27 to 7. I believe Virginia probably is going to play in the ACC championship game. Alabama in the Iron Bowl comes back in a tight game. Auburn always plays them tough in the Iron Bowl, but Alabama gets to win 27 to 20 over Auburn in the Iron Bowl. USC defeated UCLA 29 to 10. California defeated SMU 38 to 35 in a shootout. And Notre Dame goes across the country to California to defeat Stanford 49 to 20. As a result of what happened in the Egg Bowl, as I said, big coaching change that came as a result of that. Lane Kifflin decides that he is going to take his coaching talents to Baton Rouge, down to the Bayou Bengals, down to LSU. He is the newest coach for the LSU Tigers. People of Ole Miss and Oxford gave him a warm send off with one finger gestures, letting him know exactly how they felt about him leaving. We kind of all knew this was going to happen, because when you have that kind of success, 10 win seasons like the last 2 or 3 years, first ever 11-win season in Ole Miss history, and they pretty much probably have a spot in the college football playoff. But Lane Kifflin decides that he's going to, Baton Rouge is pretty much a bigger venue. They probably have deeper resources, more money in their pocket, more alumni, and I understand. I get it. It's a business. The people of Mississippi, the recruits that he's probably recruited that wanted to come and play for him, it's going to be interesting to see if they decide to go with him to Baton Rouge, or if they're going to still go to Ole Miss. I think a lot of it is going to have to do with what Ole Miss does in the college football playoff, because if Ole Miss goes into the college football playoff and they're successful and they win big, and who knows, because listen, you get in the playoffs, anything can happen. So if they go there and they win big and they happen to make it to the national championship game, let alone win one, what that's going to do with recruiting, especially in the state of Mississippi, which where I was born and raised, if they're able to see that and they're able to know that Lane Kifflin is a good coach, but if Ole Miss does what they're supposed to do and they handle business and they take care of business and they win in the college football playoff, what that's going to do to recruiting in the state of Mississippi is going to be astronomical. It's going to be huge from an economic standpoint, from a recruiting standpoint, overall morale boost. It's going to send it through the roof. So I'm hoping and praying that Ole Miss has a good outing, a good showing in the college football playoff, despite Lane Kiffin deciding to go to LSU. LSU is one of those powerhouses. It's going to recruit. It's going to have the best players. The state of Louisiana pretty much belongs to LSU. LSU gets the best talent, and all the other schools gets what's left over. It just is what it is. And I mean, you have what's Nick Saban, Les Miles, and Origin. It doesn't matter who the coach is. The talent pool, the resources, the alumni. LSU, the state of Louisiana belongs to LSU. And with a guy like him going down there, it's going to be big things for that program. So, but I'm hoping that Ole Miss do what they're supposed to do and go and have a good outing and a good showing in the college football playoff, because if they win it and they win big and they somehow make it to the national championship game and win it, what that's going to do in the state of Mississippi, my God. You thought changing the flag meant something. If they win the national championship and they do it without Lane Kiffin on the sideline, huge. Anyway, let's get into the pro game. Let's get into the NFL. Turkey Day, Thanksgiving Day games. A bunch of big wins for teams that played on Thanksgiving. Let's start off with the Green Bay Packers defeating the Detroit Lions 31-24. Story of the game for the Packers. Love had 234 yards, 4 touchdowns, no turnovers at all. Jacobs had 83 yards rushing. Wicks had 44 yards and 2 touchdowns. Watson had 80 yards and a touchdown. Micah Parsons, he woke up and had violence on his mind. My God, what he did that game. 2.5 sacks, pressures. He was all over the field. It was a one-man wrecking crew, showing Green Bay and Packer Nation that $47 million that he's getting every year for the next 4 years, well worth it. I'm a Cowboy fan. I wish him the best. I did not want him to leave at all. Did not want him to leave. But let's be clear. If Micah Parsons stays healthy, his trajectory, he's going to be in the Hall of Fame one day. Pretty much. Same way you mentioned Aaron Donald, same way you mentioned Warren Sapp, same way you mentioned Lawrence Taylor, Charles Haley, Reggie White, Bruce Smith. He's going to be in that line. It is what it is. Story of the game for the Lions. Goff had 256 yards, 2 touchdowns. Montgomery had a rushing touchdown. Williams had 144 yards and 1 touchdown. But a huge win for Green Bay on Thanksgiving, because it keeps them afloat with the first place Chicago Bears. I'll get into that game in a minute, because the Bears have definitely been a surprise this season. But Green Bay gets a huge win in Detroit, 31-21 over the Lions on Thanksgiving Day. My Dallas Cowboys, that's right, Cowboy Nation. Just keep winning, keep doing what you do. Get a huge win over the Kansas City Chiefs, 31-28. Story of the game for the Chiefs. Mahomes, 261 yards, 4 touchdowns. Rice had 92 yards receiving, 2 touchdowns. Kelsey also had a touchdown catch. Dak Prescott, 320 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Malik Davis, this man is fresh off the couch. Fresh off the couch now. 43-yard rushing touchdown. Came through that like a bolt of lightning and couldn't be caught. C.D. Lamb, a reminder to the world he's the number 1 guy. He is that dude. 112 yards and a receiving touchdown. The Cowboys defeated the last 2 participants in the Super Bowl, which were the Eagles and the Chiefs, in a span of 4 days. This gauntlet that we knew as Cowboy fans this season that was coming, that knew that this was going to be this time of year. They get the win over the Eagles. They get the win over the Chiefs. Now it's a test. It's a real test, because you're going on the road. You're playing a good team in Detroit. And I remember what happened last year when they came to AT&T Stadium in Arlington. Detroit thoroughly embarrassed the Cowboys. They had offensive linemen out there running plays like a running back. I remember that game. Detroit embarrassed the Cowboys in Texas last year. Now I want to see how we're going to respond with this new group of guys that have only been together less than a month on defense. Offense, we knew what they could do. But this defense, bend but don't break. Definitely bend but don't break. Now we're going to see how you do on the road against a good team, a team that embarrassed you and kicked your butt last year. Also good news for the Cowboys, Trayvon Diggs is practicing, could play Thursday. When healthy, he's one of the best cornerbacks in the game. He's only going to help. There was some friction, at-home incident, whatever. We got 5 games left. And I know he's been itching to get back out there and show what he can do and the ball-hawking playmaker that he is. So I'm anxious to see what he does. But huge win, 31-28 over the Chiefs in Texas, in AT&T Stadium. The nightcap, which came to a surprise to me. Cincinnati Bengals get the win 32-14 over the Baltimore Ravens. Story of the game for the Bengals. Joe Burrow, 261 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jamar Chase had 110 yards receiving. Hudson had a TD catch. And Lascivious also had a TD catch. I hope I said his name right. Story of the game for the Ravens. Lamar Jackson, 246 yards, and he had an interception. Derrick Henry had 60 yards and a TD, and Mitchell Hauser had a rushing touchdown. Joe Burrow came back and said, listen, I understand we had a losing record and may be a long shot for us to get in the playoffs, but you know what? I want to come back. I want to play. And Joe Burrow, definitely, him being in the lineup, make the Bengals a much better team. He, along with Lamar Jackson, their only thing is that can you keep them healthy? Can you keep them healthy? Because when they're healthy, they are 2 of the best in the game. It's a shame that injuries have kind of robbed them of this season, both of them. But we're in the home stretch. 5 games left. You never know what could happen. So Cincinnati gets a huge win in Baltimore, and I think they play them again in about 2 weeks. 32-14 over the Ravens in Baltimore. Black Friday game. Chicago Bears go into Lincoln Financial Field against the defending Super Bowl champ Philadelphia Eagles and get a huge win, 24-15. And the Bears are in the first place of the NFC North Division. I'm going to say that again. The Chicago Bears, with second-year quarterback Caleb Williams, are in first place of the NFC North. How many people saw that at the beginning of the season? Not me. Story of the game. Caleb Williams had 134 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. The 2 running backs. Mananji, the rookie, had 130 yards and 1 touchdown. And the hometown kid, DeAndre Swift, formerly of the Enon Eagles of the Enon Tabernacle Baptist Church, Georgia Bulldog, he came in and had, I'm going to show up and show up at my hometown. He had 125 yards and a touchdown. They became the first running back duo to have that in a long time. It was nothing pretty. It was nothing fancy about what the Bears did. They just lined up and played smash mouth football, Bear football. My brothers, my sister, my cousin, they are all Bears fans. My mom and dad were born and raised in Chicago. So they are Bears fans all on both sides of my family. That's smash mouth Chicago football. Bear down. And they ran the ball down Philadelphia Eagles' throat. Story of the game for the Eagles. Hurts had 230 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. A.J. Brown had another great game, 130 yards, 2 touchdowns. Barkley only had 56 yards rushing. I live in Philadelphia, and I'm pretty know the sports radio shows are probably going nuts. They're probably throwing cheesesteaks and hoagies at the Eagles facility, calling them everything but a child of God. But 5 games left. This season is far from over. But they clearly are not the same team that they were last year. That's evident. But for the Bears, this is all about the Bears. Huge win for them. Another games to get into real quick. The 49ers defeated the Cleveland Browns 26-8. Story of the game for the 49ers. Brock Purdy had 168 yards, 1 touchdown. McCaffrey had 53 yards and a rushing touchdown, and Jennings had a touchdown catch. Story of the game for the Browns. Shedeur Sanders had 149 yards and a touchdown pass. Judkins had 91 yards. Fannin had a TD catch, and Garrett had a sack also for the Browns. Shedeur looked good. His poise in the pocket, his fundamentals, all that looked good. I know what he can do if you give him time. He's a proven quarterback. He knows what he's doing. But there's this other thing called defense. And outside of Myles Garrett, 49ers do what a good team does. They come on the road and get a huge win in their building. Shador looked good. He gives them hope in the quarterback position. But 49ers get a huge win, 26-8 in Cleveland. All right, Jacksonville get a huge win over the AFC South rivals Tennessee Titans in Nashville, 25-3. Story of the game for the Jaguars: Lawrence had 229 yards, 2 touchdowns. Tutton had a rushing TD. Myers had 90 yards and a touchdown. Strange had 45 yards and a touchdown. Wasn't much to talk about for the Tennessee Titans. Ward had 141 yards passing. Pollard had 60 yards rushing. Simmons and Winston Jr. both had a sack for the Titans. Like I said, Jacksonville, I think they're like 8-4 on the season, and they're right there with the Colts. So it's going to be a battle in the AFC South coming down to the Colts and the Jaguars leading that division. But look out, because the next game I'm about to get into is the Texans are right in that mix. But Jaguars get a huge win, 25-3. Houston Texans go into Indianapolis and get a huge win, 20-16 over the Indianapolis Colts. Story of the game for the Texans: C.J. Stroud, glad to see him back from injury. 276 yards, 1 touchdown. Chubb and Collins both had a rushing touchdown. Collins also had 98 yards receiving. Story of the game for the Colts: Jones had 201 yards, 2 touchdowns. Taylor had 85 yards rushing. Pierce had 78 yards and a touchdown. Don't look now, but the Texans are 7-5. C.J. Stroud, first game back. They're getting healthy. They have a good defense. I said the Colts and the Jaguars are 8-4. They're leading in the division, but Texans are coming on at the right time. So it's going to be a battle between those 3 teams. I know they're probably going to play each other again before the season is over with, but look out, Houston Texans. Miami Dolphins get a win over the Saints, 21-17. Story of the game for the Saints: Shaw had 239 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Valet had 93 yards and a touchdown. Olave had 47 yards and 1 touchdown. Story of the game for the Dolphins: Tua had 157 yards, 1 interception. Achane, that running back, he is the truth. 134 yards and a touchdown. Waller had 47 yards. So a huge win for the Dolphins in Miami and South Beach, 21-17 over the Saints. Jets get a win over the Atlanta Falcons, 27-24. I don't know what to say about the Falcons. The season is just not going the way they thought it was going to go. After they beat Buffalo the way they beat Buffalo, I thought it was going to be sky's the limit. But Penix getting hurt, and they just free fall. Story of the game: Cousins had 234 yards, 1 touchdown. Robinson had 142 yards and a touchdown. Sills, the 5th, had a touchdown catch. Story of the game for the Jets: Taylor had 172 yards and a touchdown. Breece Hall had 68 yards and a touchdown. Taylor also had 1 touchdown, and Mitchell also had 102 yards and a touchdown. So huge win for the Jets against the Falcons at Meadowlands in New Jersey. The game of the day, to me, one of the games of the day: Carolina Panthers in Charlotte against the Rams, who were the leading team in the NFC yesterday prior to the game. Panthers get an impressive, huge win, 31-28 over the Rams. Story of the game: Goff had 243 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. One of those picks was for interception for a touchdown. Corum had 81 yards and a touchdown. Smith had 82 yards. Adams had 2 touchdown catches. Story of the game for the Carolina Panthers: Bryce Young. He is impressing me every time he steps on the field. He is growing up right before our eyes. 206 yards, 3 touchdowns. Hubbard had 83 yards. Coker had 74 yards and a touchdown, and McMillan also had a touchdown catch. Carolina Panthers are improving. They have gotten better every single week. They beat my Cowboys, so that win is looking very more. The losses that we had against the Panthers and the Bears, it's not looking quite as bad, because the Bears and the Panthers have improved tremendously since the season started. So huge win over the Rams in the rain, pouring rain in Charlotte yesterday, 31-28 over the Rams. The Bucs get a win over the Cardinals, 20-17. Story of the game for the Cardinals: Brissett had 301 yards passing, 2 touchdowns and an interception. Knight had 62 yards. McBride had 82 yards and a touchdown catch. Story of the game for the Bucs: Mayfield had 194 yards and a touchdown. Bruce Irving had 61 yards and a touchdown. Godwin Jr. had 87 yards. So the Bucs and the Panthers The Bucks and the Panthers are right there as the two teams trying to compete for the title for the division win in the NFC South. So both of them getting wins yesterday. It's gonna. I think they probably play each other again before the season is over with, which will probably determine who's the champion in the NFC South. Bucks are gonna win 20-17 over the Cardinals. Seahawks over the Vikings 26-0. Not much to talk about for the Vikings. Brosmer, who filled in for McCarthy, had 126 yards, 4 interceptions. Mason had 47 yards. Hackerson 59 yards. That's pretty much it. Darnold had 128 yards. Charbonnet had a rushing touchdown. Ernest Jones, the fourth, had 2 interceptions. One of them was returned for an 86 yard touchdown. DeMarcus Lawrence also had a sack for the Seahawks. Former Cowboy had a sack for the Seahawks. Seahawks are right there. Good defense, solid quarterback play, and Jigba was pretty much held in check, but they still shut them out. And if you saw Justin Jefferson on that bench yesterday, the look he had said it all. You can just tell he was just disgusted, didn't want to be there, and it just sucked. And I mean, if you go into a game and you don't get not even a field goal, that's bad. And that's a long flight home back to Minnesota with that. So 26-0 Seahawks over the Vikings. Los Angeles Chargers get a win over there on AFC West division rival Raiders 31-14 in Los Angeles. Story of the game for the Raiders: Smith had 165 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Genty only had 31 yards rushing. Bowers had 63 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns. Story of the game for the Chargers: Herbert had 151 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. He also left the game. He was injured. I think he had a broken bone in his hand, if I'm not mistaken. Vidal had 126 yards rushing and a touchdown. McConkey had a TD catch, and Johnson had a TD catch for the Chargers. So they get a win in the AFC South, 31-14 over the Raiders. Buffalo, excuse me. Buffalo go into Pittsburgh and get a huge win, 26-7 over the Pittsburgh Steelers. Story of the game: Josh Allen had 123 yards, 1 touchdown pass. He also had a rushing touchdown. He now has 76 rushing touchdowns. That's the most rushing touchdowns by any quarterback in NFL history. He surpassed Cam Newton, who has 75. So Josh Allen has 76 rushing touchdowns. He also had an interception. Cook III had 144 yards. He also had 33 receiving yards for the Buffalo Bills. Story of the game for Aaron Rodgers: 117 yards. Warren had 35 yards and a touchdown. Washington had 45 yards. The crowd in Pittsburgh was saying, "Fire Mike Tomlin." He's never had a losing season. He's been to 2 Super Bowls. He won 1. They're probably not going to fire Mike Tomlin. That's not the Rooney style. They hold on to coaches for a long period of time. So they're probably not going to fire Mike Tomlin. Some changes will be made. But Aaron Rodgers looked like a 41, soon-to-be 42-year-old quarterback. Couldn't move, no protection. He got hit in the face. He had a bloody nose. And he looked like a 41-year-old quarterback that's like, you know what? I probably don't want to do this no more. It's probably then it was out there, you're getting beat up, it's cold, and Pittsburgh season is slipping right before him. So, but for the Buffalo Bills, it's probably saving their season because they were kind of on the skid a little bit. But huge win, 26-7 over the Steelers. The Broncos in the Sunday night game get a 1-point victory over the Commanders, 27-26. I did not expect this game to be that close. In overtime, story of the game: Knicks had 321 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Harvey had 2 rushing touchdowns. Sutton had 62 yards and a touchdown for the Broncos. Mariota had 294 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Rodriguez Jr., 41 yards and a touchdown. Old man Zach Ertz, 10 receptions, 106 yards. And McLaurin Scary Terry had 96 yards and a touchdown. But the game came down to Mariota's pass being knocked down, and the Broncos get the win. I think they're now 10-2 on the season, and they get a huge win, 27-26 in overtime in Maryland against the Commanders. Monday Night Football preview: the Giants taking on the Patriots. I do believe Jackson Dart for the Giants has cleared concussion protocol, so he might be starting. But since this game is in Foxborough and the Patriots are playing very well at home, I'm going to go with the Patriots to beat the Giants tonight in Foxborough. So I think the Giants, if Jackson Dart is playing, he'll have a good game. But I'm expecting New England to get the win over the Giants. I'm expecting the Patriots to get the win over the Giants tonight in Foxborough. Let's get to some NBA action. Hard in the paint, guys. That went hard in the paint last night. Anthony Edwards had 32 points. Peyton Pritchard for the Celtics, 42 points. Jalen Johnson had 41 points, 14 rebounds, and 7 assists. Nickeil Alexander-Walker had 34 points. Tyrese Maxey had 44 points in double overtime for a loss for the Sixers. Denny Avdija, I hope I'm saying his name right, for the Blazers, 31 points, 19 rebounds, 10 assists, and a triple-double. Zach Edey for the Grizzlies had 32 points, 17 rebounds. Luka Doncic, 34 points, 12 rebounds. Austin Reeves, 33 points, 8 assists for the Los Angeles Lakers. So once again, the big news, Lane Kiffin is taking his head coaching talents to the Bayou Bengals down in Baton Rouge for LSU Tigers. Selection college football selection committee, I think, is meeting tomorrow. Probably determine who's going to be the 12 teams. Just got to say this one more time as a Miami Hurricane fan. We beat Notre Dame head-to-head, first game of the season. They have the same record we do. So when you match that up, head-to-head has to count somewhere. So do the right thing. Put us above Notre Dame. I'm not saying Notre Dame doesn't deserve to be one of the 12 teams, but we should definitely be ranked higher since we beat them in head-to-head. Head-to-head matchups have to count for something. Same record. So if we played each other and we beat them head-to-head, that has to count for something. Anyway, another segment of Monday Morning Quarterback. This will be posted to my YouTube page, TheBridge45. So subscribe to the channel, like the videos, give me your feedback, let me know what you think. First of the month, holiday season is now here. Christmas music, Christmas movies, bring them on, let's go. Hopefully everyone had a safe and happy Thanksgiving as they're returning back home. You guys stay safe and have a good one, and I'll get at you guys next week. Till then, peace.